Servers at restaurants. What's the strangest thing someone's asked for? Story 1.
We had a woman send a grilled chicken salad back because it was cold.
So we cooked some new chicken and made sure to send it back while still warm. She sent it back again.
The entire salad wasn't hot enough for her. We microwaved her salad.
She ate it. I don't know, man.
Reply.
Sometimes at my old job we would have Nacho Expo, and one guy asked for lettuce instead of chips, which, no problem, I love a taco salad. Except all he wanted for toppings was nacho cheese.
He wanted a hot nacho salad.
OP reply. I've made worse, but only while stoned. Story 2. Honestly, I'd say the weirdest thing was that while I was a server at a restaurant in the Royal Hawaiian, a guest asked me to book a shark adventure tour. It had nothing to do with my job or even the hotel. Those tours were entirely separate businesses. I took his black card, went to guest services, picked up a pamphlet, and booked the tour. He tipped me $250.
Totally worth it. Reply.
Being close to someone who was an assistant for a billionaire, many rich people are deliberately demanding assholes, but some literally lose their grasp of who is supposed to do what for them. They get so used to being comped and ushered around and treated like royalty, they kind of just think they can ask any service person anything and it can be done, or sometimes even their lawyers, accountants, etc. I mean, fuck 'em sideways, but I do understand situations like this. Reply 2. I'm a lawyer. One time, a really rich client asked me to sit in her apartment and supervise while museum workers came to box and remove 30 or 35 paintings. You want to pay me my hourly rate to sit on your $5 million apartment and read a book? I'm not proud. Reply 3.
No, dude, you're not too proud.
Story 3. Once a very thin, middle-aged woman came in.
She couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds soaking wet.
She asked what our biggest steak was. I told her it was the 24 ounces, ribeye. She said, okay, I'll have that. Our steaks came with 2 sides, so I asked which ones she'd like. She said, I don't want sides. I told her they were included in the price, and she still refused them.
I bring out her steak and she begins eating.
She's about a third of the way through when I ask, how is everything?
She says, great.
Bring me another steak. I say, is there anything wrong with that one? She says, no, it's great.
I want a second one.
I go back to the chef and tell him, and he couldn't believe it. But we served her another steak. She ate all 48 ounces of steak and left me a $40 tip.
Reply.
Someone had an epiphany that they're an adult and they can do whatever they want. Reply 2. A work friend of mine a few years back was never allowed to have Lunchables as a kid, but then had that exact epiphany. That at work she could have whatever she wanted for lunch and her dad wouldn't even know, so she started having Lunchables for lunch. That was the most excited I've ever seen anyone regarding food. Story 4.
I had this couple come in with their own tea set.
The man asked me if I had a few minutes to learn a few things. They were the second table sat, so I humored him. He showed me a very specific way of steeping and pouring the tea over a sugar cube and had me try it a couple times with water.
The whole thing was sort of neat.
He then asked if I would mind serving them their tea this very particular way. They were super kind, even tough. The man had sort of an intense vibe to him. I filled the pot with hot water, carried it out like he showed me, and poured their cups of tea exactly how he showed me. He seemed extra pleased but never said a word or even looked at me. It was no problem and I felt super fancy doing it. I did refill their tea one time while they were there, and he also asked that I keep his wife's water glass full at all times. I knew it was going to be a good table when the first time I came by and refilled her water glass and inquired if they needed any more tea. The man handed me $20 and sort of dismissed me.
He did it twice more that afternoon.
At the end they paid with no tip, I thought, but $60 and a cool lesson was enough for me. My manager found me about an hour later and handed me an envelope and said they told him they only will come in when I am working from now on. The envelope had $100, business card, and handwritten thank you note. Apparently they had put this request up for many fine dining places and I was the only to get it right and do it graciously. It was very odd, because after the first lesson they treated me as if I was almost invisible, backed up by the fact they didn't tip me in person. On every return trip it was the same. If you didn't know the deal they would seem like cold assholes, but they tipped really well and I treated them like VIPs every time. Reply: 20 years from now you're going to be visited by a lawyer in a bowler hat and handed a black velvet envelope. Within, you'll find a letter, inscribed with gold on parchment. The contents will read thus: regretfully, we have passed beyond the veil. Alone among many have we trained you well enough to carry on the work. At this point, you'll be black-bagged, whereupon you'll wake up in a castle, location unknown, sitting at a medieval table of stout oak, with a very familiar tea set sitting in front of you. A single placard on the table will read, "Please begin, time runs short." A deep rumble will resonate from the earth below you. Best you not dally. Reply 2. No way you're not someone's DM. Reply: ha ha ha, 100% guilty as charged. Story 5. A tablecloth. A gentleman shat himself at a booth and asked for a tablecloth so he could walk out with it wrapped around him. I still serve him to this day and that was around 15 years ago, no shame. Back he comes once a week.
We never asked about getting the tablecloth back.
Reply: respect for helping him out in his time of need. Reply 2. Not food related. I walked into a public bathroom once and based on the smell and the gentle sobbing and cussing coming from a stall knew a guy had exploded prematurely and was in a hell of a mess. I just said, "We've all been there, man, what can I do to help?" Guy slid his car keys under the stall, described his car and where he was parked and said his gym bag was in the trunk. I fixed him up. Reply 3. It's people like you who help me keep my faith in humanity. Reply 4. He'll take care of you when you shit in your pants. Story 6. I used to work at a Japanese restaurant and I once had someone come up to me and ask me if we had any low-sodium soy sauce. The request itself was not so strange and I gave him the bottle we kept behind the counter. The strange thing was what he used the soy sauce for, which was pouring some of it into his Pepsi. Reply: all the way through I was thinking, this seems pretty reasonable tbh, and then at the last sentence, there we go. Reply 2. Dear Diary, I visited a restaurant that had Pepsi and low-sodium soy sauce. Today was a good day. Story 7. A middle-aged lady insisted she didn't like soda water or sparkling water so instead asked for a white wine spritzer without the white wine. There are 2 ingredients to a white wine spritzer: white wine and soda water. Reply: I served a lady a Long Island iced tea and she got mad that the ice was floating on the top instead of the bottom. Sorry ma'am, I'll just go ahead change the laws of physics and make you a new one. Story 8. Chicken is vegetarian. Lady orders pizza with chicken, for the table. Rest of the table argued with her that they're vegetarians.
She can have chicken on her own pizza with chicken.
She replied chicken is vegetarian. Refused to understand that her friends were trying to get a vegetarian meal. Reply: some people just don't get it. I was invited to a dinner once where the host cooked my serving of roast beef extra long, since I was vegetarian. This isn't how it works. Reply 2. He don't eat no meat? That's okay. I make lamb. Story 9. One time at a Mexican restaurant my brain glitched and I asked for chopsticks. Poor girl froze up and said, "Oh, ask my manager but I don't think we have those." Reply: if I ever open up a Mexican restaurant, I'll add a challenge that if you can eat a whole-ass taco with chopsticks, without dropping a single piece of anything inside it, your meal is free. Story 10. Not a server but my grandma would bring in her own bread to restaurants and ask them to toast it as a side for her breakfast. Edit. I never really asked her about the bread, but I believe it was some store-bought, multi-grain style of bread.
She'd bring it in a Ziploc bag.
It definitely wasn't an allergy thing, and I don't think it was a saving money thing either. She wasn't the Great Depression type.
She was a character straight out of Mad Men, Mrs. Maisel.
She was never told no, but to be honest, she may have only done it at places she was a regular at. Typically when we visited my grandparents, we always went to the same restaurants. My clearest memory of her doing this is at a place we always had breakfast at the morning before we left.
Reply.
When my great-grandmother would take my mom and uncle to McDonald's, she would bring slices of cheese from home and add them to the hamburgers because she didn't want to pay an extra nickel. She would also add sugar to her Coke. Reply 2.
10-year-old me was at a Christmas party.
I watched my family friend add sugar to his Diet Pepsi, so it's not diet anymore. That kid grew up to be an engineer for Lockheed. I guess he's always been an innovator. Story 11. Can I have the chicken salad please, but instead of corn I want peppers, instead of raisins, dates, and instead of pineapple, apple. Aw, and no chicken, thank you.
Reply. I was on a date and she ordered a chicken Caesar salad with no croutons, chicken, cheese or dressing.
Waiter looked at me and I had the same perplexed look. He said, so just a bowl of lettuce? She said, no, chicken Caesar without the croutons, chicken, cheese or dressing.
She got a bowl of lettuce.
That was our only date. I think she was under the impression they pre-made the salads and just picked the ingredients out before serving. Hey, stop. You are awesome. Subscribe. Yo.